And welcome back to Restless. I'm Father Joseph Gill, along with Lauren, Diane, and Javier, as together we young adults try to navigate this crazy mixed-up world with our faith as our guide. And this is the last time that we'll be having Javier, Diane, and Lauren all together because Javier is moving to Texas in, 4 days?
On Friday, yes.
On Friday, days. So 4 days from now, he's moving to Texas. We're going to miss him greatly. And so we figured for his last episode, we're going to talk about transitions and changes in our life, because that can be hard. It can also be a great blessing. It can be doors of opportunity, but also a great sadness, because any transition means leaving behind what's comfortable and familiar. Do you personally like change in your life?
Well, I can say for myself, I think I have a good disposition when it comes to change. I'm not easily overwhelmed, or I don't really become anxious, I guess, so I can handle it well. And the other thing I've recognized too, I think in most of the big changes in my life, they were made because of me. Like, I chose to make the changes, right? Which I think is different than if a change is put on you.
Right.
You know, that could obviously be harder to handle and more difficult to adjust to.
That's certainly true. Yeah. What about you, Diane?
For me, change is difficult because I'm very much a routine person. Like, I do the same things, I eat the same things every day. But it's something that, like, I used to be really bad at change because I just liked the way things were and the predictability, and that gave me a sense of peace. But now I've been working on sort of my just wanting to give up that control. And so I think that changes have become easier.
That's good.
More recently, yes.
That's a gift. What about you, Javier?
I'm like Diane. I'm a routine person. I do the same things. Monday I have my thing that I do. Tuesday I have my thing that I do. Wednesday I have my thing that I do. Most of the day pretty much looks the same. The only thing that looks different is the night time. I'm either doing a podcast or I'm ministering kids on Tuesday, or a Wednesday night I have I sing at a traditional choir. Then I go to mass with mainly a group of men up in Georgetown, and then Thursday nights I'm free, and then Friday nights I have another Bible study. But it's the same thing every single week, and then I wake up in the morning, I go to the gym, I go to work, and then I do the same things every night. But I am easy to adapt to change. I can see that in me for sure. I don't necessarily welcome it, but when it does happen, I don't think it's something that's like, it doesn't traumatize me by any means. It's just like, okay, well, now we just got to do things this way.
So what's been the biggest change you've ever had to make in your life? Maybe the most earth-shattering for you?
Well, I have one. I've talked about this before. I didn't make it, but my first ACL injury, that was a total change for me because it was my last summer after college, and it was the first summer that I stayed in Columbus, so I had a lot of excitement to finally be there for a summer, and I was playing Ultimate probably 5 nights a week with all my friends, and we were hanging out all the time. It was great. And then I went from couldn't walk, and in a lot of pain and on crutches, and then I was just alone in my apartment all day. I had 2 roommates and they were never there, so it was lonely and sad and a total shift from what I had just been experiencing, like the week before. And that it happened July 5th, and I was staying there till September 1st. So I just had a couple months of loneliness, and I went to physical therapy, but I really wasn't doing anything. So that was my probably biggest change. It really just like uprooted what I had been doing, and it was traumatic. It was difficult, but
sure,
you get through it. I went home, got the surgery, did the PT.
Yeah.
Started working. That's
one of those changes you didn't expect and didn't welcome.
Yeah. And then I tore the other one the following year. So it was like, wow, really?
Yeah.
I got to go through this whole thing again? So, yeah, sometimes things happen that you're not expecting, and you have to just do the best you can with them, right?
For me, my hardest change was exactly something similar, not a physical thing, but when I went to my first year of seminary in Mount St. Mary's in Emmitsburg, Maryland, which is about 45 minutes from where I grew up, so my family was nearby, made some phenomenal friends, absolutely loved, just invested in that community. And then it was Holy Thursday that year when the bishop called me in and said, we had changed our minds. We want you to go to Rome instead. And I was like, wait, what? And everyone around me was like, congratulations, that's great, that's wonderful. I'm like, no, It's really not. Like, I don't want to have to learn an entirely new language and take classes, graduate level classes, in a language I didn't speak, living in a country that I didn't know anything about in Rome. And yeah, Rome's a great place to visit, but it's, it's a city. And it was hard. It was really hard to accept God's will there. And I was actually supposed to stay for 3 years. I only stayed for 1 year because I just couldn't do the change. It was too much transition for me.
But that certainly formed you, right?
Oh, looking back, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
And I think every seminarian should do that before they become a priest, to spend a year in Rome. I learned a lot about the church, learned a lot about myself, traveled to some really cool places, but it was tough because it wasn't a change that I wanted or welcomed in my life.
For me, it was probably after I graduated from college, I knew that I had an internship with PwC this summer before, and I got a full-time offer. So going into my senior year, I knew that I had a job after college, and then I had the summer and the fall to study for the CPA exam, and I basically had to pass each of those sections because I knew that if I didn't pass one, then I'd be doing it in like busy season. Which, as soon as I started at work, that was my biggest transition because you go from college, which is kind of like fake life, and even though studying for the CPA was hard, I enjoy sort of studying and learning, so it wasn't that difficult for me. Going to work, though, it was the first week, it was right in busy season, like staying up until, at the client until 2 a.m. and, getting used to working with all these people I didn't know and commuting to clients far away and just navigating sort of like trying to understand the client's businesses and everything. It was just so much pressure. So that was really difficult. And I kind of felt a little lost until, I got to know some awesome people, and now I still work at PwC, and it's such a blessing, everything that I've learned. But at the beginning, it was really scary. I didn't know what I was doing. It was the unknown. But I look back and I'm so grateful for all of those experiences because they do really make you grow. When you're uncomfortable, at least for me, it really just challenges you to kind of, come out of your shell and build sort of the things that you need to and work on in your personality.
Sure. Javier, what's been your toughest change or transition?
That's hard to say for me. I've been through a fair share of injuries and stuff. Probably the worst one I had is I caught part of my Achilles tendon when I was 9 years old. And that was pretty tough because I was told that they weren't sure if I was going to be able to walk without a limp for the rest of my life or play sports. And at the time I was swimming at the national level in Venezuela, and so I was training like 7 hours a day, going to national competitions and stuff, and I literally couldn't put my foot in the water for months and stuff, and then having to come back from that. But the thing about it is, like, when you're a kid, it seems kind of seamless. I have flashbacks of like physical therapy and the things that I saw and the people that I saw in there and stuff, because I was in like pretty intense physical therapy, not like when I tore my ACL, which was like a couple people, old ladies and stuff, trying to move their arms and stuff. This was like intense. This was people that lost a leg and stuff, or like people that were recovering from like being burnt or something, and I had to see all that as a kid, but it's just flashes. So I would say the most difficult one is this season that we're in right now, the season with COVID. I'm a very social person, and to me it's super tough to be around people, especially people that I know and love and stuff, and people that are paranoid about everything that's going on and not being able to socialize with them or hug them or just be the same way that we were before, and having to adapt to all this, or having to work from home when my job is kind of difficult to do from home. It's already tough to like find the motivation to do it when you're in the office because it's very repetitive. Then when you're at home, it's so much harder. It's how do you find that motivation and stuff? And so this season has been, I think, difficult for me. I don't always show it and stuff, but I'm such a social person, and I'm so amicable, and I like to be so close to people that whenever I have to like take a step back because someone just wants to like elbow bump or something like that, or you invite them over and they don't want to come over because they're scared of the virus or something, or now you gotta adapt and work from home. It's like all of those things combined start taking a toll on you. And then when we went into quarantine, not being able to go to mass and stuff, not being able to receive for so long, when I was outside of the Catholic Church for so long, and then I'm finally coming back, and then it's like, oh, I want to go to Mass every day. I want to receive him every day. And then all of a sudden it's like, I remember that Mass that we went to in the morning at St. John's. I'll never forget it. Just receiving for the last time, because that was the last Mass. And tears just flowing down my face because I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to receive him. And it was okay later on, during spiritual communion and whatnot, but it's just been a long season. I think it's, and it hasn't ended, and it doesn't seem like it's going to end anytime soon. So.
That's true. Yeah, the whole world has been in transition, kind of adapting.
We're blessed that we have the Lord and stuff, and He's, man, if I didn't have God, it's just what we've been talking about in so many episodes. I mean, if we didn't have God, and we just wouldn't even know how we could do it. But even so, we're still human beings, and things get to us, and so yeah.
So, but can you see from all these transitions, starting at PwC, or the transition to being inactive after an ACL injury, can you see any blessings that have come from these transitions?
I certainly can. So the other part of my story that was really tough is I finished my college season by going to USA Ultimate Nationals, which was a huge deal, and especially for my school. It was the first time we qualified as a school. So that happened. It was amazing. And then I was like, and now I'm going to go to club nationals, like maybe in just a few months. I tore my ACL. It took 3 years for me to get back to playing competitive ultimate again, to actually make a team, because I went through the 2 surgeries. And then another year, like the year that I finally was back playing, we should have made it. We should have qualified, and we lost. We were up 8-6, and then I think we lost 10-8. It was like a really windy game, so it was a low score, and it was like we just crumbled at the end. It was devastating. It was a horrible loss, and I was like, how could this happen? Like, I went on this tremendous journey to get here. Like I don't know, it may sound like silly to you, but to go through 2 surgeries and all the physical therapy and the rehab and getting back up to just running, being able to cut, getting your conditioning up. Yeah. My sport is a lot of running, a lot of endurance, making it, like being in the qualifying game and losing. I was so sad. Like I was crying as I drove myself home. Also, it was super lame. I had no one to drive home from Massachusetts back to Connecticut with. Like, it was such a low point. And then the following year, we finally qualified. But so like that for me was years of like going through this challenge and this hardship, and something that came so easy to me in college was taken away. And so it certainly was growth in perseverance and my will, and overcoming these new challenges, and like putting my mind to something and be able to do it. Because on my second surgery, I was like, I am playing in 6 months. Like, I can't do this whole year thing. And I actually was running and playing at a little level. So I certainly grew as a person. And yeah, I think, I had taken for granted probably everything that I had, my ability, just my athleticism, being able to walk. I mean, that was when I was on crutches. That, if you've ever been on crutches, maybe you felt that way, like what a gift it is to just be able to walk.
Right.
So I think a challenge like that for me, it puts things in perspective, and it makes me grow and just be grateful,
Yeah. I think that's going to make a great Disney movie someday.
Yeah.
I think so too.
It could
One
be.
of those great underdog
maybe when
sports
Ultimate
movies.
Gets a little bigger, or maybe that would help.
Exactly. The story of Lauren Doyle, the true story. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Yeah, change can bring about great blessings. I'll tell you one great blessing that came from this experience of being in Rome. So because I was in Rome, I know a little bit of Italian. I would not say I'm fluent by any stretch of the imagination, but the Lord really put it on my heart about 4 years ago to run a youth pilgrimage to Rome. And so I ended up getting 13 kids and 7 adults, and we went over to Rome and had a really transformative 10 days over there in Rome. And that never would have happened if I had not lived in Rome for a year, right, 10 years earlier, and had that experience and kind of knew the streets and knew how to be a little bit of a tour guide in St. Peter's Basilica and things like that. So that was a great blessing that came from the hard challenge of being in Rome.
For me, even though this season has been really tough, that I could never look back and say that I've had the most spiritual growth during the season out of any point in my life, for sure. And I mean, it was kind of apparent to me, but then people that I didn't see for months while we were quarantining and stuff, especially people from the other church, from the Protestant church, they saw me after couple of months, just a couple of months. I mean, but this whole thing started during Lent, and this has been, I mean, I've said it in a couple episodes, this has been the best Lent season that I've had, and I can't wait for the next one. But the growth that the things that the Lord did in my heart during that time, I can't describe them. And they were apparent to me, but when people start pointing them out and stuff, like, then they become even more real. So it's been a blessing overall. It's been tough, and I think it's just more tough because it keeps dragging. It's like the cold weather in the Northeast that just drags.
Hence
I can
he's
endure
moving
it.
to Dallas.
I can endure it. I don't mind 28-degree weather. I got out of my house today and I was like, oh, okay, it's 28 degrees. It's not that big of a deal. But when it comes to like May, June, I'm like, oh, I can't wait for it to be freaking warm, you know? And that's where I'm at right now. It's like, this has been great. I mean, it's been great for me spiritually, but I'm kind of ready to like get out of the desert, get out of this. So,
but you can see how God's been moving.
Oh, for sure.
And that's
sure.
key, to see how God is moving through your transitions.
Yeah.
So when we come back from break, we're going to talk specifically about Javier's transition, you know, where he's going and what he's doing and how he's impacted our lives here in Stanford. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Restless. We've been talking about change and transition and how God kind of leads us on adventures. And I remember a quote from, I think it was G.K. Chesterton, who said that adventure is only an inconvenience rightly considered. I think that's kind of a great, quote, because anytime there's a transition in our life, it's really God leading us on an incredible adventure. You look at the people in the scriptures, how he led Abraham. He would live in his entire life when he was 75 years old, now moving about 600 miles to a land he'd never seen, and said, yeah, I'm going to give you this and kids, and, your name's going to be a blessing. And he's like, okay, let's do this thing. I'm sure that was a cost, because Abram's like, I'm leaving behind my family. I'm leaving behind the people I love and the town where I grew up. And God had better blessings for him on this crazy adventure. And Javier's leaving on a crazy adventure in a few days, heading down to Texas, where he's going to live out the rest of his days, possibly. Don't worry, he's not dying. He's just moving down there to take another job. But what's your feeling? Well, first of all, I guess we should say, what brought you to Connecticut? How long have you lived here?
My job brought me to Connecticut. My company, I was down in Houston working in oil and gas, and oil and gas went south back in 2004, and I survived until 2005. And in 2005, they were going to let me go. I was literally next in line to let me. They were going to let me go, and by the grace of God, and they called from New York, which is a completely different division in our company. One's oil and gas, the other one's infrastructure, and they literally work like two separate companies. But they called. I had worked very closely with my department head through organizations and stuff that I became a member of through work, and she called me up and she said, "Hey, Javier, they're looking for a young engineer to move up to New York. Do you want to go?" And I said, "When do I leave?" And so I came up here, and I can't say that it was all spiritual and beautiful. I mean, it was very secular the first like 2 or 3 years or so, but the Lord worked in my heart tremendously. He had already given me everything I needed to really grow in my faith. It was really, that's where it comes back to that choice, right? I mean, he gave me everything that I needed. It was my choice to actually take it and use it and apply it. So
why'd you pick Connecticut instead of New York?
To live?
Yeah.
That wasn't me. That was God that picked Connecticut. But I started working there. I was on business trip for like a month or so when I first moved up here, and my HR lady just introduced me to a guy in the office who lived in Stanford, and she said, "You're a young adult. There's a lot of young adults in Stanford. I think you'd like it. It's only like 25-30-minute drive." And I would have never thought all the blessings that the Lord had in store from just that decision. Had I not decided to move to Stanford, I would not be sitting here. So, but the Lord led me here, and little by little, he started leading me in different ways. And through meeting that guy, his realtor brought me to the apartment that I used to live at. When that guy moved out, another guy moved in, Alex Miram, you guys all know him. Mm-hmm. He was the one that invited me to Faith on Tap, and through me going to Faith on Tap, the rest is history. Yeah, as they say.
Then he met Diane, and Diane became friends. And
we started a Bible study together, and then it grew, and I was still going to Protestant church, and I was just like, oh, I'm just here to bring the Bible to all these young adult Catholics. That's what I'm here for. No, that's not what the Lord
little
had in
did
store.
he know he would come back to the Catholic Church within the last couple of
And
years.
it was the weirdest thing. It was like Diane did talk to me a lot about the faith, but I remember you, Father Joe. I don't think there was ever a time that I ever remember you trying to lure me in or anything like that. In fact, I remember bringing you a book that I was reading, and I was like, man, I love this book. It was about the Beatitudes, and I remember I was like, this is the only thing I don't like about it. It's like kind of talking badly about the Catholic Church, and you're like, well, in this one point, I actually kind of agree with him, and that just blew my mind, because I was like, that would have been the perfect opportunity for you to say, yeah, that's wrong. That's all wrong. This Protestant guy is all wrong. And you were like, no, I'm sure Dr. Martin Lloyd Jones he's a great guy. I mean, that's a good point.
In the interest of full disclosure, and I've never told you this, Javier, but I went home that night and wrote in my journal and said, Javier needs to make a decision as whether he's Catholic or Protestant. I literally wrote that in my journal that night.
Well, the Lord answered your prayer. I made a decision.
He did.
And it actually took me a while. It wasn't until Sunday that I went to my last service at the other church that I actually told most people, like, hey, I'm living now, so I can tell you I'm Catholic. It took me a while. I thought it was going to be super awkward, but the one guy that I told, who I've actually heard not speak very well about the Catholic Church, he told me, he was like, it's not about denominations. He said, it's really about your relationship with the Lord. If your relationship with the Lord is not right, it doesn't really matter where you go to church. And that blew my mind, because I would have never in a million years thought that he was going to say that. So I think he could really see, my faith and stuff and how much had changed. And I think he realized that it didn't happen there. It started there, but it continued somewhere else. And he's been so amazed by it that now he's kind of realized, like, oh, he's been going to Catholic Church, to the Catholic Church. And so,
and you may have planted some seeds in their mind.
Oh, I got in my car and I thought that. I was like, I may have done that, And I even told him, I was like, I think you guys would be great Catholics. You and your wife would be great Catholics. He's a young guy. He's about 25 years old. He's amazing. He's great. I mean, you can tell, like, both of them have had the Lord in their hearts for a very, very long time. I mean, they live very, very Christian lives. Very, very Christian lives. But I know that they're still missing stuff. And so we talked about NFP. We talked about a couple of things that other Christians don't do and stuff. And so I know that kind of made him think a little bit. And it was good. It was good. It was
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
So not only has God worked in your heart during your time here in Stanford, but through you, God has worked in a lot of other people's hearts. Like, Diane and Lauren, how has Javier impacted you during his time here?
Well, I think like what Javi was talking about before, and just
Getting emotional. They have a great friendship.
They have a great friendship.
Well, I can keep going. I really only got to know you, Javier, through the podcast. So for us, it's only been 5 months or so, 6.
Right?
Like, I knew you, but I didn't.
We've seen each other a lot.
Yeah,
but
we saw each
never
other a
really-
lot, but I've only known you these past couple months, and it's been a pleasure to be on here with you and learn more about you, hear your perspective. I was certainly interested to understand leaving, and what that's all about, because I just don't have any knowledge really on the Protestant faith, and that's something I struggle with too. I think like, what these people should be in the Catholic faith, God's truly present there, and I don't know, I kind of worry about people in that sense, but even just hearing you now, it's like, maybe I don't have to worry, I don't know. So it's just, yeah, I like to hear that perspective, and it's been great to be on these episodes with you.
Yeah, I really liked what I heard on. You guys know his name, and I don't know who he is. He's big in the Catholic radio, but he's got a beard. I don't know.
Jimmy Akin, probably.
Yes, probably. Yeah, it's got to be him. I don't know.
He's got a huge beard. He's from Texas.
Yeah.
Wears a big 10-gallon hat.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's Jimmy Akin.
a Protestant called in, and he was asking the question about, like, hey, can Protestants go to heaven? And he said something that really struck me personally, and I've said it in the podcast before. He said, if you know the truth of the Catholic Church and you willingly reject it, then that's, I think, where the Lord can have a problem with you. But he's like, I've met great Protestants that have a deep relationship with the Lord, and I don't worry about their salvation. But if you know about the Catholic Church and you decide to reject it, then that's where I think the Lord would have a problem with you, because the Catholic Church is the one true church. And that just hit me like a ton of rocks. I was like, oh man, that's me. I can't. Okay. Father Joe, your journal entry has been answered. I am a Catholic.
It's so true that, especially in today's world where we're facing secularism, I think Catholics and Protestants got to stand together as brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Because that faith in Christ is what's going to push back that secularism and that lack of God in the public sphere. And I'm so impressed and just so moved when I see Protestants who are on fire with love for Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just, it's amazing to me.
I think that's one of the biggest things that Javi taught me too, because we had our fair share of arguments at the beginning, just kind of going back and forth. But Javi was so I was talking about like relationship with the Lord, like relationship with the Lord, and I was like, Javi, like I get it, but I don't think I got it. And I think that like you really taught.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. So Javier, what are your feelings about moving on?
Honestly, when I saw the question about what's the most difficult change in your life, I think this will be my next most difficult change in my life. And the life here has been amazing for me. There's been so many ups and downs. I feel like I feel like I've been in the whale's stomach a lot. I've hit rock bottom a lot. And the Lord has worked through that a lot here, and I have family here. You guys are my family. Like, there's no doubt about that. The connection that the two Christians can have is just, it's something that you can't even explain. I mean, you automatically become like brothers and sisters and stuff, and it's amazing. And
that's what I love about Javier is he always greets you with, "Hey, brother." How you doing, brother? That's awesome, man. I love it.
It's kind of weird to say, "Hey, sister," but sometimes I do it. So I always try to like, unless you have a name like Lauren, I've tried to like shorten your name and stuff. I don't know.
It's LD. That's
LD.
That's my nickname.
Lauren.
I always try to like, and then the same thing with Diane. Like when we started getting closer, I was like, what do I call you? Because so I ended up calling her D. Because I was like, I gotta give you a nickname. And she was like, well, I don't really have too many nicknames and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, then I'll just make one up. And
well, Diane's initials are DK for Kremheller, but that would also be Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
So you may not want to go with that.
Yeah. But no, it's going to be an incredibly difficult transition. I think Connecticut has something that I can't even explain. The religious freedom here, even though we live in a very secular state and a very liberal state, I still think that the religious freedom here is just beautiful. I mean, like, if I think about like getting married up here, like I could pick the church, I could pick the priests, plural. I could pick
there would be a lot.
I could pick the MCs. I could pick all the altar servers. I mean, it's just amazing, and I literally could, I know that speaking to you, I mean, you said like, well, I mean, it's just however long the marriage prep takes, and then you just pick a date, and that's not the case in just about anywhere else I'm gonna go, and so it's like all this religious freedom that I have up here, plus like the people I know, plus the organizations I'm in, that's gonna be really tough to build again, but I have blind faith, and I know that if the Lord is bringing me to Texas, he's going to open those doors one way or another. So,
amen. He will. He has got great things in store for you.
And whatever doesn't get opened up there, it's still going to be open here. So
that's right. You're always welcome to come back. Yes, for sure. Well, we've run out of time, but thanks so much for joining us. All of us go through transitions in our everyday life, whatever they are, big, small. Focus on what God is doing through the transitions. Transitions and change can be tough, but God always has something in store for you, some way for you to grow, some blessing to shower upon you. And we especially ask God's blessing upon Javier as he goes on his next blessing. Thanks for joining us on Veritas Catholic Radio, 1350 AM, and wherever you find your podcasts. Tune in next time.